Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Eitai, and such a pleasure to be here. Great to see you, everyone. Thank you, Colin Sekere, for joining us. I believe this might be your first time, and if it is, fellow blessing to you. And of course, to all our viewers out there, we are streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to Africa, to the entire world. It's such a lovely morning. This is Thursday, 17th of June 2021. And it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. We are delighted that you're here. We're excited that you're here. And yes, this tell everyone that the Good Morning Education Show is on. Thank you so much for joining, everyone from across the world. Please do tell us your location, where you're streaming from, so we could recognize you. And of course, do not hesitate to contribute to the subject matter of the day. And we also like to tell our tribe members, our viewers, that we look forward to having questions also from you. Questions that has to do with how do I put it now? Question that has to do with the subject matter of the day. We will try as much as possible to entertain the questions as we go ahead. All right. And remember, on the Good Morning Education Show, our new segment, which we've started, is a segment where we try as much as possible to bring to you information about opportunities, especially grant opportunities within the world of education. And I don't want you to miss out on it. Take advantage of it. And you will find out that there's so much more you could do. And there's so many opportunities out there for you. Do not miss out on it. Tell someone, share the word, and subscribe to our channel. Share the videos, like the videos, make some comments. Let's see how the Good Morning Education Show is affecting you. And I believe that with time, you'll be able to see the value in it. And ladies and gentlemen, don't miss out on this. The Good Morning Education Show is going to be 12 months in a jiffy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a great celebration for the Good Morning Education Show. We are always excited when we have reasons to celebrate. And I believe that you will be part of that. Yes, I believe strongly that you'll be a part of that. Okay, so we're going to have a bit of, okay, let me welcome Dr. Motola. Dr. Motola, good morning. How are you? Great to have you on the show today.
Good morning. Good to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. And then, of course, we have Folu Palado as well. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Rotimi. Good morning, Motola. Good morning to our tribe. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the show this morning.
All right. So without wasting much time, we're going to go straight to our usual practice where we have the headlines. But then just before then, let's just acknowledge some people. We have Colin Sekere says, "That's so nice. Thank you very much." We have Lukman Amisu. Thank you, Lukman, for joining. These are people that I believe that I'm seeing their names for the first time. A bell of blessing to Lukman and Colin, right? And then, yes, let's...
Welcome, Colin and Lukman.
Yes. So we have our first headline for the day. It's actually JAM, not AM. That's an error. JAM releases results of 2021 mock examination. JAM releases results of 2021 mock examination. Fee, do you want to say something about that as well?
Releasing the results, if that's helping with, like, that's the what now, the in preparation for the exam, and helps with checking results with speed, with accuracy, and all of that, then yeah, it's a good one. And hoping that also the students have, for those who are writing JAM for the first time, I think the mock exam is a good one for them to practice in a real life situation. You know, the real life simulation is a good one for them, knowing that, well, we're not sure if the mock results amounts to anything for the candidates, but if it doesn't, um, it just helps the candidates to have a feel of what the exam is. And I think that's a laudable one. That's a good one for both the exam body and for the students.
Okay. Dr. Motola, you want to say something?
Yes, I agree with Finn as well that yeah, I think it's good for the students so that they know where they are and that can help them to gauge their preparation. But at the same time, I think it's just really incomplete the way that they announce date and release date, because they didn't say anything pertaining to the percentage of those that are doing that passed or like or meet the cutoff mark. So I think maybe in the future they should definitely not just say they release the result, but they should be able to give like statistics to say, okay, based on the 62,000 plus that did this mock, this is the percentage that passed in these subject areas or something, or this is the percentage that are struggling in a particular subject area. So I think that can really help to enhance it. But yes, it's good for the candidates so they can know where they are and where they need to brush up on for the real exam.
Okay, fantastic. So we've heard from the experts. So let's take a step further. We will go to the next headline. Still on conversations, we have NANS. That's the Nigerian Association, I think National Association of Nigerian Students. Gives Unilag, Yabatek, 14-day ultimatum to reinstate the SUG, that's the Student Union Government, in the schools, and they're threatening to disrupt academic activities if this is not done. Let's hear from Ifi on this.
Seeing this headline, what just comes to my head first is everybody's angry in Nigeria. Like, there's just something that is like legitimate grounds or legitimate reasons for one protest or the other. But that said, I think it's essential for the student union government of institutions to be allowed to exist and to be allowed to carry out their activities within the confines and ambits of the regulations that set them up and the regulations of the institution. I mean, it's like gagging the students, taking away their voice for representation, taking away their rights to association by maybe, well, we don't know if it was if the SUG was suspended or was prescribed or whatever it was that happened to their SUG. But the students also should find a different way of passing across or establishing their grievances, because they are threatening a protest that will shut down everything. If we're appealing to the university staff, teaching and non-teaching and all of that, to help to ensure that the academic session runs smoothly, then it should not be the students that will come in to disrupt that. There are other ways they can get the university, the institutions to listen to them. There are other ways they can get the institutions to, that they can come to the table and agree on what works for both parties and have the SUG in these institutions reinstated, working, but then they also know that they cannot just be a law unto themselves. They have to abide by the laws that both the institution and the student body agree on.
Fantastic. Dr. Motola, do you want to say something?
Yes, so on reading it they said for those two universities, the SUG has been suspended for over 5 years. And so I think no matter what what has happened in the past that made them to make that decision. I think it's time for them to review it, because based on what the students are saying, they're saying that it is like they're really like um not allowing them to like give them the freedom of association and of gathering, and also like their freedom of like speech and like human rights thing, like that they are abhorring that. So I would say, I think yes, maybe something happened in the past for them to have made that decision, but I think it's time to really like that suspension should not be indefinite, that oh forever. I think there's a place and there's a role of SUG within the campus life, and I think it's important to for students to experience that and have the opportunity to definitely participate in those activities. So I will open recommend that, like Fini said, that the first solution should not be threatening that they will go on strike or they will disrupt academic work, but that they will have a conversation and try to negotiate a way to bring it back. And if that does not work, then maybe they might go to this what do you call it, the 14-day thing that they are going to do. But before they do that, they should try and explore other ways of like diplomacy in having a conversation and trying to create a new terms of agreement so that the SUG can be back on both campuses.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move over to another one. This is also talking about NAF College of Nursing commences diploma program.
Okay, so we've talked quite extensively about these other higher institutions that are not universities and the roles they play. So for this, it's a good one that the Nigerian Air Force is inaugurating a diploma program in their College of Nursing. So it's for me, it's more specialized, it's more targeted. There is the students going in there know exactly what they're going into. Their programs are designed with that focus in mind. And this for me speaks volume in an era where there's a lot of clamor for change of name from polytechnic to university. I hope they stick with with the charter that sets them up. I hope they stick with the philosophies that hold up this college and that they're able to deliver, because there are so many students who want to go in for nursing, and this is just additional. This is just giving options to those who would like to do nursing and may not be able to get into some other institutions. They can always try this.
All right. Dr. Motala, you want to say something?
Yes, I think yes, it's very commendable, like Finn said, and I think it's very good that they're taking this step, because I think we need more people in this field and in this sector. And so I'm glad that they are creating the opportunity to open up the space for more people interested in this career path to have the opportunity to be trained and to learn and to be able to utilize their service to serve the nation at large.
Okay. And then I think we now have our last headline. Okay, maybe not necessarily last headline. We will have yes, pro-chancellors. Pro-chancellors want labor removed from exclusive lists.
Yeah, this is in line with the enabling environment that we talked about yesterday, and hopefully it should speed up the process of, or maybe make it better, the process of payment of wages, of salaries, and maybe to some extent funding for institutions. But well, I am not going to hold my breath on this. We know how stuff like this goes, especially where it's now finance related. We know how this goes, but if this is properly taking away from the exclusive list, and state governments can negotiate, they can talk with the with the institutions and with the bodies, instead of waiting for maybe before they're able to get a chance to have discussions with the federal government and all that. Hopefully it should speed up things. Ideally, it should make things much better. And well, I am hoping that they're able to get what they're asking for, and that we're going to have one less thing to bother about when it comes to the education sector, and especially tertiary education, where we have ASU is always talking about agreements from this year, agreements from that year. They were supposed to be giving this amount or that amount, and the whole thing gets confusing at times. Like, what exactly are they fighting for this time? So to me, it's proper division of labor for the state's institutions, especially. Let them be off that exclusive list. Let it be under the purview of the state governments, and hopefully things are much better.
Dr. Motola, do you want to say something?
Yeah, for me, I'm a bit sort of weary about it in this way of like, yes, I am glad that they are trying to take the initiative and saying that they want to have more control. But the question is, what are they bringing to the table? Would they be like, are they going to co-share the cost of all of these wages and salary that they are acting that they want to be able to be in charge of and be responsible for? And then how are they going to do better than what is presently or currently in place right now? And so I think it's not just enough to say they want it or they want the control, they want to be, but they need to have a plan or have a strategy to back it up, to say this is why we think this is more in alignment. And like, we talked about this, I think last week, about this idea of like universities, whether state or federal, can't just rely on the federal government alone for the funding and their money. So if they're still heavily relying on the federal government for these things, then like I'm a bit like skeptical in terms of like, if they take over, how are they going to do better? Like, what is to be said that they are going to do it better or run it better and make it more effective, and that will reduce strike and things like that. So that will be some of my own questions and things to think about before I say well done to them for their initiative.
Absolutely right. I agree with Dr. Motola for that singular reason. We sometimes get to realize that some things are just political lobbying, and people just clamor for things, not as if there's an agenda that is clear to show that there'll be a difference, right? And finally, let's just take on this other one. FG inaugurates committee on NRDF bill. The federal government inaugurates committee on NRDF bill. You want to say something on that?
So the NRDF is the National Research and Development Foundation. And well, the question I'm asking is, how is it different from other research institutions, parastatals, and all of that are already existing? Well, though this says it's a foundation, and probably it's the role or the institution or the foundation is expected maybe to source for grants for other research and development arms and organizations of the government. Maybe that's what they are they are expected to do, or maybe to help fund research and development in high institutions, polytechnics, and all of that. So, well, it's a good one. The initiatives usually are good, especially where it's an initiative that is contributing to making the lives of others better. What we really would like to see is that this initiative is not just on paper, or it's not just flagged off in a very elaborate way, and at the end, 6 months down the line, we are asking what happened to this foundation, or what's going on with this foundation. Their impact is much more important than just inaugurating it and making noise about it and say, no, this is already in existence. And that the maintenance for me is the maintenance, and for them to be relevant and to carry out their assigned functions. That's the most important for me.
Okay, Dr. Motala is a research person, so obviously this will catch her interest. Dr. Motala.
Yes, like I was just like recapping on it, and I'm like, this is just vexing to me a little bit, because I'm like, based on what I read, is like they want to bring Nigeria to become more of a knowledge economy, and I'm like, since like I'm just like, why is it that we are celebrating something that is already the norm in so many places? And like, yes, it's good and commendable that they're trying that, but I still really like doubt that they're going to be effective, because I think that they are not really going to the grassroots, or even see like bringing voices of diversity that is needed in that committee. So I think it's more about these like clout of, oh yes, we get the professors, like the 30-40-year-old professors, we keep using the same curriculum over and over again, or lawyers and things like that. And so for me, I'm like, I would love to see maybe in the committee having like young people and their voices, and then also experts in those like subject areas. Like think of like the rise of online courses, and how like using social media, people have been able to create their own knowledge economy to use it to sell and make a living, even during the pandemic. And so I think they're just waking up to something like a train that has already that is already on a fast moving train. And so I'm still like, for me, I don't know, I'm hopeful, but at the same time I'm like, they're like, based on what they're saying and the things that they're charging them to do, and say they want them to create a framework. I don't understand. It should not be about legal framework. It should be about really like action plan, like execution on, okay, this is what we're going to do. Realize that we're limited in this area of research. How can we pump funding to encourage both young and old, and those that are in the education field, or those that are in the like knowledge economy, to really bring their geniuses together to help to elevate Nigeria, and to bring us to like the forefront of like using knowledge to help us to grow in all of the areas that we are struggling as a nation and as a continent. And so they're not doing that based on what I've read so far, and it's just the same old thing of like just creating a committee for the sake of creating a committee and making it sounds like big. By the end of the day, it sounds like all talk and really no like action or movement. But I hope that they prove me wrong.
We do hope that they prove you wrong. And once again, want to say good morning to others who've just joined. I want to say good morning to Smart Ongara. Thank you always for being there, and thank you for joining. And on that note, we move quickly to the conversation of today. Very important conversation, and it's a two-word topic: without education. You know, when you listen to recent clamors and the realities or priorities, sometimes it looks like people feel that education can take a backseat. So I want us to really explore this conversation today, and also hopefully our audience could also be a part of this. What will we do without education? Without education, if we don't fund education, if we don't build education, if we don't develop education, what would our lot be? What would be the reality? And when we talk about reality, I'm looking at both the short term and the long term. You know, all these things are are things that we're looking at. So please, let's start that conversation now. Yes. Let's start with Dr. Motola this time around. He's already ready to go.
Yes, I was like, I can go on and on and on with this, but I'm going to not do that. So without education, I I believe there will be no enlightenment in terms of like growing in our knowledge of ourselves and even in the knowledge of the world. And so also without education, I think we'll be stuck and be like stay in this like mentality of that we know the best, when actually there is more opportunity to learn and engage by learning from others through like reading or even like having conversations with people. Without education, the world will be lost. Without, and like education does not necessarily also mean that it has to be formal and that you have to go to like a formal school or university for you to be educated. So for me, my definition of education will be broadly like both formal and informal. And education also for me is like without the education of like knowing our history, knowing where we are coming from, knowing what we've gone through, we will not be able to really plan for the future and to say, okay, these are the things we need to not do, or things we need to stop or start or continue to do to move forward. So I'll stop there for now and let other people chip in and then continue later on.
Okay, thank you for that brief but punchy intro. I'm going to now ask Finn to take over on that, still on that conversation. Finn, over to you.
Okay, so for me, education basically is an enlightening experience. Where this experience takes place, different is different from person to person. It varies from place to place. It doesn't need to be formal like we know of schools and a formal setting. It's just that it's an experience that leaves you better enlightened. It leaves your mind open to see things differently. It leaves you thinking. It challenges your thinking. So, knowing that education is this experience, it's not restricted to a place. It's not restricted to brick and mortar. It's an experience that can be carried around anywhere and that can happen anywhere. Then we should not be thinking about a world without education. We should not be thinking about a society without education. You know, when some people say, "Oh, it's a Western idea," it's a yeah. I have some reservations about the way typical school runs. I have felt, oh, when I was in school, like my time in the formal education system so far, I felt things could have been better. I felt the system could have been a lot more easier and fun. And you know, these days we are seeing all sorts of videos coming up about ways to do multiplication, division. Recently, a colleague sent me a video on fractions and just drawing, you know, butterflies and finding the answer and you know, this reverse thing of multiplication table and all of that. I was like, why did all of this not come up when I was in school to just make things a lot better? Yeah, we could have had it much better than it is right now, but we should not be thinking about a world without education, because our development is only as fast and as rapid as the exposure of the minds of the citizens, the exposure of the minds of the individuals that make up that community, that make up that society, is what determines their development. There are certain conversations we should not be having if there was proper education of the mind of the people. So for me, without education, no, it's a no. It will always be with education.
Fantastic. We have Dr. Titi in the building.
Good morning, everyone. Rotimi, wait for me to get my doctorate first, but good
No time, no time, no time, no time. We can't wait. We can't wait.
We can't wait. It's a good morning on the Good Morning Education show. Welcome everyone to all those joining far and near. Welcome. Good morning. I like today's topic. Without education.
So let's hear from you. What would you add to that? So without education, what will happen? What will we end up with? What could be our reality without education?
Well, without education, there's increased insecurity. We've talked about it before, and I think I will use this opportunity to say, when we live in our own bubbles, in our various bubbles from our various tribes, from our various religions, uh, without education, it allows us to see the next man as our enemy. See the next man as someone that we need to fight, and that brings a lot of insecurity. That brings, people can propagate stories that we don't because we are not educated enough. We don't evaluate and see the falsehood in them. So without education brings a lot of increased insecurity. Without education, it brings a lot of um healthcare issues. A lot of people are not educated and do a lot of things because they're not educated. So I'll give a simple one. Right now, in terms of prevention of malaria, sometimes when you listen to what some people do, you're amazed. You're like, wow, a little education and they'll be wiser. It's the same thing as when you think about female mutilation or a lot of things that are propagated. A lot of it has to do with because of poor education. People, and when we talk about education, we use it as an it's not about speaking English and math and addition. It's a whole lot of things. So without education, there's poor healthcare. Look at what was happening during the COVID. People will say all sorts of things. People go and have themselves with hot water, take too much. How will I say? Prescribe all sorts of things to themselves, all because they weren't well educated. So when we look at education is not really only about maths and English. Education is really about the mind being enlightened. And it's important to realize that a lot of issues in terms of healthcare, a lot of issues in terms of insecurity are due to poor education. And even economic poverty can be very much traced to education. When you look at a man that has a business, that has an idea, you find out with a bit more education, he can expand his business, he can employ more people, equip more people, and then he's raising the level of his own business. He's also giving jobs to other people, and then those people in turn are being able to take care of their family. So without education, there is increased poverty and there's economic crisis, and that's a lot of what we are seeing now. We can see high rates of unemployment because of poor education. So people come out of schools, they cannot get better jobs, they are left to do manual jobs, and those manual jobs are just helping them barely take care of their family. It's said that in Africa 60% of people live below the poverty line, and a lot of that can be traced to poor education. So if someone comes out and the only jobs he can do is to be a driver, I don't want to call mechanic because mechanics require some bit of education. So what will happen to him? But imagine if he goes to school, and he's still a mechanic, then he understands a bit more about the car, can provide more services, better services, ask for a higher premium on his services. Do you understand? Employ more people to do the job. Is able to secure his business because he has a bit more enlightenment. So education is not, I would say, it is not just about learning how to read maths and English. It's really about enlightenment of the mind, and it affects every area of our lives, both economic, our physical well-being, our mental well-being as well. When people are educated, they can identify when an issue is a mental issue, and it needs to be taken to the right right people for the right care, rather than say, oh, you lock him up in a place because the person is mad. Just gonna lock him up in your house. It's the same thing when you have a child that has special needs. Instead of doing what needs to be done due to poor education, they just lock him up and leave him at home. When something can be done, and some things that are not permanent can be rectified. So poor education. Oh my goodness, I could go on and on and on. Let me just stop here.
Thank you so much for really taking time to break it in different ways. Sometimes it's good to see from different perspective. And I really want to. I'm coming back to Dr. Motola, and I really want to ask this question because, recently we've had several administrators, regulators, even the government has really shared a kind of position as to some of the things that they believe they can do and they can't do. And sometimes when you listen to some of these things, you are almost tempted to say, so what does this statement really mean? So let's say, for example, just as we already have our opening statement, we believe that education is really vital and critical to national development. But imagine we're saying we want to develop our nation, right? Our agenda is national development. And the thing that is critical to national development is taking the backseat. Are we really informed about the decisions we are taking? So if you were to do some calculations, you find out that some trillion naira, for example, in Nigeria, has been spent on certain things. Very soon, you will hear the budget for the 2023 election. And you'll find out that these things are in billions and billions and billions, right? You hear certain things, and then you now come back to analyze. And I want Dr. Motola to be able to, can you read that or review for us, almost like just opposing it, that there are certain costs that we are taking or that we should look at and say it doesn't really take much, but it's like we feel better without education. Can we analyze this cost or these projects that we find sometimes taking the front seat
Yeah.
instead of education?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I like quotes. So one of my favorite quote that I always say is like, it says like, an unexamined life is not worth living. And so I always apply it to businesses, to non-profits, to schools, to even the government or a nation. So an unexamined nation or even the governance of a nation is not worth having, because it's just chaos, and it seems as if we're going backward then forward. But to your question, I think like, and based on this topic of without education, I think that in Nigeria, and I think in most African countries, but I'll focus on Nigeria, we have this tendency of having a narrow view of what education is. And I think that is coming to really, really hurt us now, right now in the 21st century. And based on what you're saying about, sometimes we invest money, we allocate money into things that are totally ineffective, useless, and not what we need. So think about our nation. Like, they keep telling us that, oh, Nigeria has the most mineral resources, the weather, everything. But based on this topic, without the proper education, the right education for our specific region, for the kind of opportunities that are there that are on tap, we are still backward. We are still labeled as a third world country, because we as a people, whether the government or the people themselves, because of our perception, our attitude about what is the right education or what is education, we are not able to move forward. So one of those will be like, think of investment, or maybe making investment in TVET, so technical and vocational education and training. Like, more than ever, I think that should take priority in the budget than any other kind of education, because all of us, we've been product of it. Most of all, we've had stories of it. They teach us rote memorization. I remember when I was in junior secondary school, and they would tell us to imagine dissecting a frog. That is not education. That is not empower education, for me at least. And and I'm sure these things are not changed, especially in the public school sectors as well. And they'll say, imagine dissecting a frog, or things that we need to do practically to see, to learn, to like make up like experiments and do combustion. There are no resources. There are no allocations for that. There is no money in the budget for these kind of things, and that hinders our education, that hinders our growth. Think about it in terms of our power. I still think that it is so senseless and like ridiculous that we still cannot figure out how to have electricity for at least 12 to 24 hours a day, that we still cannot figure out water and so many things that are so basic, and that having over 200 million people in this country, and then Nigerians are known to be the most educated across the world. But yet, what have we produced for our country in terms of innovation, in terms of real development, in terms of research, in terms of innovation? And so for me, I think right now we are prioritizing the wrong things. We rather be happy with an empty title without result, without execution, without really bringing forth the things that we need to bring forth and really investing in those resources that will bring forth those results, than for us to actually pivot the way that we think, our perception and our attitude about what kind of education do we really need. Because I don't think our education system is being tailor-made for our for our region of the world. They want everybody to be doctors, lawyer, banker, engineer, accountant, or those kind of things, and then they ignore the real things that we actually have assets in, that we have resources in, that if we just spend, at least we increase our budget with maybe just 10% or 20%, we can produce so much more result. It can create so much economy, and the rate of unemployment, whether for youth or for adults, can drastically reduce. We can have more money that we can invest in social things and all of those kind of things. But yet we don't see our Senate or our House of Representatives arguing about this kind of things. Instead, they're arguing about how they should ban Twitter, or how they should stifle education and growth in some regions, or in some specific things as well. And so I, like, when I think about this, I get really upset about it. But for me, I think we are like prioritizing the wrong things. And we need to rethink that, and we need to examine and really see and change our ways in that regard.
All right. It's quite serious. Let me ask Finn, in your own words, in your own way, what would you top in the list of education? Because there are certain things, yeah, we can't do without education, but what are those critical elements that we must understand, that we probably need to bring to the minds of everyone out there?
That's quite it's a somewhat difficult question to answer, because when I think about education and thinking about it out of the box of a classroom, or out of the box of the confines of a campus, then I'm thinking about giving wings to creativity to fly. I'm thinking about helping to develop people with an open, progressive mindset, with the mindset of, look, anything is possible. So I'm looking at education that enhances and that empowers people to look at concepts and break it down and ask, oh, this thing has been in existence for a while, yes, but does it always have to be exactly the way it is? Are there other ways to do it? Are there other ways to think it? There are some things that we have just taken as the norm. So when A happens, B definitely has to be the result. And for me, that's when we go through a school system that continues to I'm saying school system now, not an education system, but a school system where we are turning out people who continue to carry the same mindset of, "Oh, if this happens, then the result has to be this." Then education for me in that regard is nothing new. We're not challenging the minds of the learners in any way. And another thing I would say should be top, or one thing I would say should be top for education in our climate is the voice of the students. The voice of the student almost has no voice in their own education. And here is whether it's the informal kind of education that happens in the homes. You find parents say, before you were born, this thing had been done this way. For you to make eba, you have to put water on fire, the water boils, and then you pour it inside a bowl of, why can it not be done in a different way? Why can't we ask that, well, in that setting now, the student, how do you think eba can be made? How do you think we can achieve, all I want at the end of the day is eba, make it. We need to be able to give the people or the persons receiving the education a voice to hear from them. Their minds are not blank. Their minds, we may know a little better from experience or from learning or from whatever, but they also have an opinion and a view on these things. So I would say, yeah, amplify the student voice wherever the experience is taking place. Give wings to creativity. Give wings to boundlessness. There are so many things that we have not we have not even come close to finding. We have not come any close to discovering, and they're out there. All we need to do is to empower the learner to see the possibilities in these things and be able to bring them to life. So yeah, those are some of the things I would say should top the list when we think education.
Thank you very much. So let's flip the coin now. This time around, I would like to say that for PT, I would like you to address. Now we're talking about without education, and he actually took a point to the area of education as per schools. Um, but talking about planning, because I know that we've actually had conversation along this line before. What should we be planning as a nation? What should we be planning, even if it's at a grassroots level, for ourselves? I mean, with respect to education and education across the chain, what should our planning really be?
Honestly, if you ask me, I would say the first thing that will come to my mind is vocational. And the reason why I say vocational is that when you look at the value chain of what we have now, let's say we start with let me just throw out some numbers there. So we start with 24 million children that do primary school. And then when we get to secondary school, that number more than more than halves, and then it's 12 million that finishes. Only about 2 million go into university nationwide, and that's I'm even dashing dashing the figures. So what that means is that 24 to 2 million, it means that 22 people fall out of the chain. So that's why I say, when you ask me, the first thing that comes into mind is vocational, because in the end, that's where most people are. Most people are not in the real education, what we call education. Most of them end up being out of it. So what for me is number one priority is, how do we still ensure that these people have the skills needed, to be independent members of the society, adding their own quota? It's vocational. And that's why, for me, I think personally, vocational should start from primary school. It's a lot of it starts with the mindset of whatever your hand finds to do it well. The Bible says that, see a man diligent in his ways, he will stand before kings. So, that's what Dr. Motala was saying. It's not all about doctors, lawyers, those people of the formalized educational sector. It's also so many other things. You can, I mean, look at plumbers. We've had the discussions before. Look at plumbers. See a plumber that is he's diligent, and you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed that how much wealth he can. So see people that are pimping people's rides. See people that people's ride. You'll be amazed that they can actually achieve greatness. A lot of wealth in their own fields. So I think, for me, we need to change the mindset. You can be a bricklayer, but you're so skilled in your area that you can charge a premium. You can be someone that lays tiles, that does the tiling in the house, and then you're so good in your craft that you can charge a premium. You are a fashion designer, seamstress. See the value now they can charge. So the first thing for me, I say planning is for vocational. How can we upgrade the mechanics? How can we upgrade what we currently term as artisans, to the extent where they can begin to get a premium for what they do it so well? How can we equip people so that you're not just thinking of entering university? You can think of you know getting something that your hand gets to do. See even a barber shop or a salon. You can go on to be a multi-billion-dollar business, making soap, body cream. You don't have to wait till you're Johnson and Johnson for you to yes, for you to in a trade that was passed down. Yeah, I'm serious. For a trade that was passed down to you by your, so to speak, by your parents. Look at what's happening to black soap. Honestly, I have bought all sorts of black soap, and I think of how it was from when I started, when we were young, the kind of black soap my mom used to buy. Now I bought black soap from R&R Luxury that is charging a premium. I've even seen one that is even more expensive than that, and I'm amazed. So it's the same thing. See people that are doing tie and dye. Honestly, some of the tie and dye fabrics that I've bought, wonderful. So I think I would say it vocational. That's the first thing that comes to mind in saying as they plan, because those that are really in the all the way to university level are just a tiny percentage of the total population that starts education. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add to what she said, because like this is like my I can spend hours on this topic because this is what I did my dissertation on, was just the role of technical and vocational education and training in reducing youth unemployment and like basically lifting the economy of not just Nigeria but even the Africa continent up. So I have extensive research to support what analyst Titi just described. And in the planning, one of the things I watch it is like also like yes, it's so critical, like we have a good mind that we are missing, and that's the issue, the perception. So one of the things I'll say should be part of the plan is making those vocational technical skills as equivalent as those degrees they get in university as well. Not saying that, oh, because you are in polytechnic or something, then you're lesser than those that are in the university or that have university degree. I think if we can find a way to make those certificates like worthy of like the esteem and the prestige that we give to a university degree, like it should be rigorous. They have to create their own rigor for it, right? And everything. I think that can be a game changer, and definitely like helping people to understand, especially parents, that you know what, not everybody is called out to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be an engineer, and that is okay. I live in the US currently, and I can tell you, if you get a plumber to come, like for just like 30 minutes of consultation, not even before they've done anything, it's like $150 or more. Like I, for over 2 years now, I've not gone to a hairdresser. Why? because it is just ridiculous, the amount. So I learned how to do my own AI. And so what you're saying is that yes, all of these things are needed, and there's a way that we can, like, I know here they have like beauty schools, and then they get certification, and that's why they can charge, like, because they've standardized this. They have association, they have conferences, they have seminars, they have workshop. So they've elevated all of these vocational and technical skills that they can almost stand equal to all of these so-called white collar jobs or career paths as well in that regard. So we need to get serious about really in planning for it, investing money, and also being willing to learn from other countries. In my research, I know Singapore, Finland, like they've done so much, China and other countries like that, like they have the blueprint that we can just explore, like learn from experts, do an exchange, go see what is working, what can we incorporate, how can we trick it to, like, we should not be shy, or like if it has been done, there's no need trying to like work our brain up. It's like, let's see it, how does this apply to our own particular context, and what can we do to make it different. There's so much research in this, and how other countries, they created even pipelines that right after their training they can get jobs. And like, think about it, we have so many underutilized sectors. Manufacturing, we are next to nothing. Technology wise, next to nothing. And these are places where there needs to be heavy investment in vocational and technical training and education. And if we can get that right in our planning and in our investment, it will do a whole lot to boost the economy, to reduce youth unemployment, to reduce all the social vices, and much more.
All right, thank you very much. Because of time, I want us to just move over to the education grant for the day. This is what we've started as a recent addition to the show, and we'd like to bring opportunities from time to time on the show to people out there to leverage on. So if you're there, get out your pen, get out your paper, and listen to the education grant for the day. Over to you, Dr. Motola, as she anchors this segment. Yeah.
So for our education grant of the day, it's from the John Templeton Foundation. And so the first deadline is like a letter of inquiry, which we call the LOI. Usually is about 2 to 5 pages, so nothing too big. And that's where you just share your ideas. And if they like it, then they will invite you to submit the full proposal, which will now be due in January. And so you can get up to over $200,000 in terms of grant opportunity. And you can apply for this grant if you are in the field of work, or if you're interested in academic success and enrichment, economics, mathematics, philosophy, physics. Like, so this would be good for university professors, even secondary school teachers, primary school teachers. These, like, it would be good for them. Like, even, and I love the fact that it's diverse. It's not just focusing on a specific like subject matter area, like academic development or mentorship or tutoring, but they have like spirituality, they have Islamic culture, and so many other things. So there is a lot of opportunity for different people in different field or area of specialization to definitely put their art in terms of their ideas that they want. And then anyone can apply in terms of, like, it can be an organization, so that means a school, a non-profit, a for-profit, or even an individual. Even if you don't own a school, or you don't own an NGO or a business, and then you can use it for research, you can use it for project, you can use it for a program, and it doesn't matter your location. So you can be in Nigeria, or even if you're not living in Nigeria but you want to do a project in Nigeria, you can apply for it as well. And you can see we have the website as well for you to go to and explore and see and learn more about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That was brief but very punchy, and I think this is how to also think about it. Without education, you won't have things like this. And if you don't have things like this, or if you have things like this, we could also leverage on making sure we tackle it. There's so many brilliant minds out there, and they need a push. And probably a grant like this can present them that opportunity. Some are short term, some long term. Take advantage of this, and you'll be better for it. As we bring this to a close, just one word each from everyone. I'll start with Fee, I'll go to Titi, I'll end with Dr. Motola. So just one word to end the show today.
How do I choose the one word now? One word is very restrictive, but I would say one sentence. Without education, we'll be back to primitiveness. We need education for our world to be the best that it can be. Thank you.
Okay, Titi.
Education is the one thing that has the power to make the drastic change that we need in Nigeria. That's the one thing.
So my one word will be explore. Like explore and expand beyond the limit of what you thought education was. Like question what you think you know about it, and look for ways to constantly learn and educate yourself about your area of specialty or even where you are as well.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the show today, and I believe everyone out there has found the importance, has discovered that we need to place more emphasis on education, the world of education. And I believe that things will be better as we apply ourselves and do more of work than talk. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is signing out as we usually do on the show, where we have our payoff line, and at the count of two, we do that. And if you're just joining, please make sure you watch the replay. Ladies, over to you. 1, 2, go.
It's always
It's
a
always a great morning
Morning.
on
a
the Good
good
Morning
morning
Education
education
Show.
show.
Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.